Hi, I'm Barbara Chris.
And I'm Clarissa.
We're two friends, entrepreneurs, and experts in our field,
joining forces and talking all about life, business, tools for success, and more.
So, without further ado, here's to Dope Women. Hello and welcome, friends, to our first ever Here's to Dope Women episode. We are so excited to be here and to be here with you. We have so much to share with you, and we look forward to growing on this platform with you. Before we get started, I just wanted to go ahead and introduce ourselves. First of all, I'm Barbara Chris. I'm a certified nutritionist and weight loss coach. I'm a mom. I'm an IFBB pro athlete. And I am super excited to be doing this with my beautiful friend, business partner, Miss Clarissa.
Hello, guys. Hello. I'm so excited. Yay!
I know. Yay!
Right? Yeah. So anyway, I'm Clarissa and I am a hairstylist. I'm a business owner. I have my own salon in Thousand Oaks, California. I got started on that like 2 years ago, but I've been doing hair for about 10 years now. So it's been a while, and I've been actually doing Barbara's hair for pretty much the majority of the time, right? Like she started coming to me when I was in beauty school. So it's crazy. We've known each other for such a long time.
We have. I mean, this is like I said at the start, this is a long time coming. We have been wanting to collaborate on so many different projects, and we're so excited to do it here. And like Clarissa was saying, we're two women entrepreneurs. And, you shared a little bit about the fact that you own your own salon, you started your own salon. So the whole heart of this episode is, we want to touch on kind of like who we are and kind of our start, right? Like, what we're doing. And so with that being said, Clarissa, tell me a little bit about and share with us like a little bit about how you started your business.
Yeah. So I started about 2 years ago. And I basically just opened up my own like little, 2-seater, salon. And, 2 years ago, people are probably thinking like 2 years ago, that was like during the pandemic. Right. And it's like, yeah, while everybody was shutting down their salons and shutting down their businesses, I was starting my own. And, it was definitely very scary. I had to kind of get out of my own way and get out of my own head about starting my own business. It was very scary. So
yeah,
I was able to do it.
Yeah. And it was interesting. So, we've known each other for years. And in fact, I'll just share quickly. So how we met was, my sister, she worked with my sister years ago and before you got into school. And
when I was 17, I met your sister.
Yeah.
I was 17 when I met her. So, and I'm in my 30s now. So
it's crazy. And so, yeah, I remember going to Clarissa when she was doing like conditioning my hair. And I specifically remember when during COVID that you were thinking about starting or like getting your own place. Like you're trying to figure out like what to do. Should I start my own business? Should I stay where I was at? I would imagine that, like you said, it was like you had to step out of your comfort zone big time. What was it about? Was it something about that time that really kind of compelled you to go ahead and do that, or like really what pushed you to do it is what I want to know.
I think, with during COVID, it's just everybody had to be very, how do I say, resilient, right? You just kind of had to figure out your own way and how to make it work. They kept kind of shutting us down and then opening us back up. And I basically just kind of got approached with the idea of opening up, my salon and where I'm at. And just business wise, it made sense. But it was definitely very scary because, like I said, while a ton of other salons were closing their doors, I was opening mine. So I just kind of had to, I guess, put faith in it and just kind of go with it and try and go with the flow and have as much control over, the process as I could, but also having to kind of let go of control as well, I think is a big thing too. So
yeah,
it was definitely a very scary time, a lot of anxiety, a lot of sleepless nights.
Yes. What was like the scary for you when you think back at the time? What was the scariest thing? Like what was keeping you up at night? Like maybe it was more than one thing, but what was like the biggest thing?
Well, I think because, definitely it was like during the pandemic, it's like I wasn't working, but then it's like I was getting unemployment. I was making more money while I was working, obviously, because unemployment was just kind of a joke at the time. But it's like, I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't spending money. And then I was getting unemployment, and then, you know, going back to the salon and then making money, and then they would shut us down, and then going back to the salon and then shutting us down. So I was like on and off of unemployment. Everything was shut down. So I was able to save a lot of money. So I was able to actually open up my salon debt free because I had basically saved enough money to open it. So I think my biggest thing is losing all of that money. And then also too, losing my clientele, because not only like when you move salons, they say that you should expect to lose about 20 to 30% of your clientele. Not only was I moving salons, but I was also moving locations. So I was moving about 20, 25 miles away from where I was working for the last, 6 years.
Yeah.
So that was definitely, I think, the scariest thing for me was failing, because I'm moving salons, moving cities during a pandemic. It was just a lot of craziness. So I think that was my biggest fear, is just fear of failure, right? Which is anyone's biggest fear when you're starting a business.
Oh, that was mine. Fear of like falling short, fear of just not stepping up, being, I'm a mom, and I can totally relate to feeling like that too. Like there's a lot riding on your shoulders, and the last thing you want to do is, let other people down, let alone yourself. Right. And it's so interesting. God, it's been 2 years. I remember that like yesterday. And I remember I was like, well, I'll follow you wherever you go.
Right. Yeah. I mean, luckily, probably 95% of my clientele followed. I think I was like, okay, I must be really good at what I do. Right. So, but it's like I said, I had to step out of my comfort zone 1,000%. I think that was the biggest thing that I had ever really done, is just to step out of my comfort zone at that point. But speaking of stepping out of your comfort zone, you had a huge career change. You went from being in corporate to now doing what you do. So tell me a little bit about that.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, talk about a freaking, 180. I kind of alluded to it, that I'm a certified nutrition and weight loss coach. And I love what I do, and I'm an entrepreneur, but that is literally my second career. This is my second career. For almost 20 years, I was in the corporate world. I worked in aerospace, a very, I don't say rigid scenario, or as far as like office type environment. I loved my job, but I got to the point, like especially after I had my son, I got to the point where I felt like there was something more for me. At that time, I didn't know really how to put my finger on it. I just knew that there was something more that I wanted. I felt like I was starting to get tapped out as far as my creativity, maybe reaching my full potential. And I really started to to see and to learn about myself, that I truly enjoyed helping people, connecting with people, and really having those like kind of that personal connection. And I know I've shared with you, and we can spend a whole other episode on this, but I don't want to get into like all like the nitty gritty details, but I think that for, the listeners who are listening in, is that through fitness, I started competing in bodybuilding, and I started to see things about me, learn things about me, that I could do things, on my own as like an entrepreneur. And that was a really exciting and scary thing at the same time. It was like, hey, I can actually go after something like this, but holy hell, it's really scary, because here I am. And I'm sure a lot of, people listening can actually relate to the fact, like, you might have a more like a secure position. I had a corporate job. I was there for almost 20 years. I had a solid salary, benefits. Obviously my son, I was dependent on that. It was secure. And I was thinking about, wow, like kind of like what you were doing with opening up your own salon, like all this uncertainty, like I didn't know what was on the other side, but I really felt in my gut and in my soul over time, like, no, this is something that I have to do and I have to pursue. And, eventually, over some years, I just made the move. I kind of made some goals that I followed through on. There was a lot of planning that I was able to do, but it got to the point where eventually I just had to jump and go for it. And then I did. And now that's been since 2015. So we're going on 6 years. That is crazy. So when I think of that, that is insane. 6 years.
Yeah, seriously.
And we've
So
been
what was,
talking about this for 6 years.
I know, right? Yeah,
Yes.
seriously. So
Yeah.
what was some of your biggest fears then, just jumping from, because you were in the corporate world, right? I feel like I've been an entrepreneur for most of my career. So, to go from something that is so secure for so long, you get your paid time off, you get your sick leave, you have your health insurance, all of
Yep.
that taken care of. So, to go from one super secure for so long to now just being an entrepreneur, what was your, you know,
You know,
how did you feel about that?
sometimes I thought I was just batshit crazy,
Yeah.
seriously.
Right.
When I like would like think about it, and I will tell you this, that is a very isolating time. Sometimes I think about it, I feel like I want to cry because during that time, and I think this is where, actually, no, I believe this is where Clarissa and I really started to bond, is because I think that we started to connect on this level as entrepreneurs. And when I started learning more about, just kind of my own business and wanting to start my own business, and how a lot of times people think you're freaking nuts. They really do. And they can't understand, why would you leave? Exactly like you said it, Clarissa. I had the benefits paid, paid time off. If I was sick, it was paid. I didn't have to worry about like, if I was sick that day, then I didn't get paid by my clients. I didn't have to worry about a lot of things. Because there was a lot of great things about working in the business world. But like I said, there was something in me that felt like, if I don't do this, if I don't try, I'm going to regret it. Um,
Mhm.
and so my biggest fear, I think that's what you're asking. My biggest fear was, actually, my biggest fear was regret. I did not want to regret not trying. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like,
of course.
I knew it was almost like in reverse, like I reverse engineered it, like I do everything. I'm engineering everything.
Right.
But seriously, like, if people don't realize, I've got like a whole thing of notes here because I'm like still an engineer at heart. But it was like I did it in reverse. I took a look at, my life at, say, at the end of my life, what would I regret? And I knew in my heart, I would regret not trying to create a business and a life where I can call the shots, and I can really define my purpose. Um, I knew I had to do it. I just knew.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I feel like a lot of, people feel like that, right? If they're in a career and they have these dreams of doing something else, it can be such a scary thing to just jump from one thing to another. And sometimes people just sit there and they overanalyze like all the little details that they don't ever, like paralysis by overanalysis, right?
Yeah.
People like us, like we are so like analytical in our thinking, and we think like all the little teeny tiny little details that it can be hard for us to just like, okay, let's just jump into it, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like, oh, but what about the lighting and the audio and then this and then that and then it's just like, sometimes people just get the paralysis by overanalysis. They just end up not doing anything because it's just too many little details that it just seems too far-fetched for
Yeah.
people to accomplish.
I mean, can you relate to that? So, when you were thinking about, let's say, stepping out and create or having your own salon, did you do it right away, or was it like months, like before you're like, okay, finally? Did you like even stop yourself from doing it? Like, it wasn't like like an instantaneous jump, right?
Not really, but when I was approached with it and just business wise, it made more sense because I'm literally paying less for my entire space than I was paying for a chair at a salon.
Mm.
Anybody would be stupid not to just jump in it and go for it, right? But then definitely I said, okay, let's just do it. But then I had the construction that was, taking place in the plate in my salon and
Mhm.
getting all, everything all set up. It was like during those weeks that I was just like, holy crap, what am I doing? Like, am I making the right decision? It's freaking, I can't even legally work right now because we're actually supposed to be shut down while my place is being worked on. And then it's like, how long is that going to be going on for? Right. So
Mhm.
it's just, it's so scary. It's
Yeah,
so scary.
you bring up another good point too. which I know we wanted to touch on this too, as far as like, one, just sharing our stories and a little bit about who we are. And we both know that we can spend episode after episode going into more detail about that. But we really wanted, this time to also talk about, you know, um, like dreams and the fact that we as women, we have our own individual dreams, right? About our businesses and what we want to do. But we also are looking collectively to at this dream of building a community of women who support each other, because you and I were kind of like that for each other, as far as like,
Sure.
kind of moving through this really unknown, scary, I don't know, like scary eras or seasons in our lives.
Yeah.
Because you talked about how for you, like when you opened up your own salon, that yeah, there was a lot of scary things that, yeah, it wasn't maybe an instantaneous jump, but it became pretty clear to you. And I think about how long I was mulling over all this stuff, and I'm sure a lot of people listening in can think about, yeah, I've been thinking about doing XYZ or a side hustle or starting my own business for years. I would say, and now in hindsight, when I look back, when I was really starting to get that itch, that sounds gross, right? The itch, not like that kind of, but you know what I mean? Like just that, like drive.
Yearning. It's like a
Ugh.
yearning that you have, right?
Yeah, like there's just, you just know, you know what I mean? You
Yeah.
really just know. And if you really listen to yourself, like when you're ready to go. I think I had that a good solid 2 years when I was still in the corporate world. And I just, like you said, like the analysis paralysis was going over all the different reasons why I shouldn't, what have you. I was also going through a separation, finalizing a divorce at that time. And like I said, I was freaking crazy. I was batshit crazy, but I just knew um it was, I needed to do it.
Yeah.
Which then I think I want to then ask you about this is when you think about, your dreams and stepping out of comfort zones, how important was it to you with how or what you surrounded yourself with, whether it was people, things you listened to, things you did? How important was that to you for you to succeed at what you're doing now?
Well, I mean, definitely, I mean, being a hairstylist, working at a salon, renting a chair, you are technically working for yourself, but I still kind of almost felt like I had a boss. I still kind of felt like I just worked somewhere. So I really wish that I would have had, well, I guess there are resources out there, but I wish that I would have tapped into those a little bit sooner. I worked at a
Mhm.
salon where nobody really cared so much about growth. Nobody was doing social media. Nobody was doing, online booking. Um, it was just kind of a lot of like old school type of things. So I was not really surrounded by people who cared about growth. So it wasn't really until I actually opened up my own business that I was like, holy crap, like I have my own place and now I'm responsible for my own growth. I don't just like get walk-ins, right? Because the place that I'm at, you don't get walk-ins. So that was when I really started listening to podcasts and started going out on social media and started, studying on social media.
Mhm.
So it wasn't until I really got into that I actually started growing. So definitely, surrounding yourself with like-minded people is huge because I mean, I was surrounded by people who didn't care about growth for so long. So then my growth was super stunted. So it also too, I mean, my family, I don't think they really understood what I was really going through. So I was opening up a salon and I'm gone for long periods of time. I mean, I was there till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, getting
Yeah.
things set up, and people just didn't really know or understand. Nobody even really offered to help. I don't think they even, my own mom, until she actually saw the salon and saw it open and saw everything, I think she finally realized like, holy crap, this is where you've been. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't really realize. The only person that really helped me a lot was my boyfriend. Like
Mhm.
we're there just, installing shelves and stuff, so yeah, I wish that I had more of a community of people that, I could have at least just some support and really just grow
Mhm.
and have like-minded,
Yeah. It's
motivation.
lonely, isn't it?
It
It
really
can
is.
be.
It
It
really
can be,
is.
I should say.
And we had really talked about how we kind of almost felt like the black sheep in our family, right? Because I don't know if you have anybody in your family that owns their own business, but I don't. I'm the only person in my family, in my immediate family, that is an entrepreneur, really. So I didn't really have anybody to kind of mentor me, or at least
Oh,
I didn't seek that out.
yes, right. Because like you said, mentor, right? There's safety in feeling like you have a mentor, someone to fall back on. And when you don't, it's not only is it like super lonely, but it's like it's super scary too. Um, I mean, that is all like I love that you shared that because I think that a lot of people can relate to if they're thinking about whether it's starting their own business or like you said, they've started it and they don't know what, kind of what to do because it's overwhelming. That was like the same thing with me. That was when I realized when I stepped out of the corporate world, and then had my own business and realized, like you said, wow, like clients don't just come to me because all of a sudden I'm certified and I'm good at what I do, but they're not just like falling out of the sky and I'm booking, I'm booking my schedule with clients. Like I have to kind of like bust my ass even more, like work
For
even
sure.
harder. And it's interesting because I know other coaches who are like starting out and they'll ask me like, how do I build my clientele? Like I'm struggling with, I'm new at this. And I feel like people talk about this a lot, right? The imposter syndrome. I feel like I'm not an
Yes.
authority figure yet. Like, how can I put myself out there and not be scared and not feel like I'm going to get criticized? Like I know I need to do that to get clients, but it's so scary because I don't feel like I'm ready. And
Yeah.
I think one of the best pieces of advice that I got now that I give is that, you know what? Sometimes you just got to freaking do it. You just got to go out there and do it, like ripping the band-aid off. I mean, like you said, talk to people. You want to get some advice. You want to get some insight about what kind of works well. You want to be prepared. You need to know your shit, right? I mean, as
Yeah.
much as you know in the moment, you have to accept the fact that you only know what you know right now, and you're going to learn some more later, but you need to own that, and then you just need to start. So, like with me, I was coaching some of my closest friends, I was coaching my family members, and I was building my confidence like that. And that is where I had to start. And then I remember when I started, had my first cross country, client, out of the state of California. I remember that was like such a big deal. I remember like, getting like the whole boob sweat going right before I got on the call and just like so nervous.
Yeah.
And then you get that and you realize, oh my God, I can do that too. But you have to kind of start kind of like small, I guess, like a
You have
baby
to start
step.
somewhere. Yeah,
Yes. And you have to start. Like you
for
have to
sure.
start.
For sure. I always kind of struggle between, done is better than perfect, and how you do anything is how you do everything.
Oh,
Right. Those are
yeah.
two quotes that I'm just kind of, I always battle between back and forth, right? Because
Mhm.
done is better than perfect. You can always kind of go back and perfect things or change things along the way. And then how
Mhm.
you do anything is how you do everything, right? Like if you
Yeah.
half-ass everything, then you're not going to, be great at anything, right? Like that's how hairstylists are too.
Mhm.
I'm not really like a jack of all trades. So I always kind of battle between those two. So I do catch myself saying, okay, you're focusing too much on like the little details, just do it, And so I feel like me and you have had to kind of do that too during this whole process of like, okay, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And you talked also about too, like the things you surround or things or people, the stuff that you listen to or that you surround yourself with. Being a nutrition coach, it's so interesting because I think about how the things that I nourish myself with would also be something that I would share with, others who are trying to do the same, whether it's starting their own business or they want a side hustle. It's really look at what you're feeding yourself, not just, I mean, okay, one is yes, your nutrition, you probably need to be taking good care of yourself. You want to be feeling good first, right? Feeling good, feeling confident in yourself. But then all the things that you listen to, like I know for sure, which is another reason why we wanted to do this podcast to begin with, is that we both felt so strongly about the fact that when we struggle or struggled, because we have our moments of struggling now too. Seriously, we
Of
struggle now
course.
too.
Of course.
We both love listening to podcasts. We find inspiration in listening to other women or just really other inspirational and I think also truly helpful podcasts that really help you work on yourself. Um, I surrounded myself with that stuff. I was reading, I was listening, I was, as much as possible, trying to take care of my body and my health. That made a huge difference too, right? So when I felt like I was kind of like, building myself up as much as possible, it was a lot more comfortable for me. I don't want to even say easy because that's not real. It was a lot
Yeah.
more comfortable for me than to go out and deal with other people and coach other people. I mean, did
Hmm.
you experience that too? Like when first few times like you had to deal with like a brand new client and brand new salon and all of that, like building your confidence, like that doesn't just come like you
It
wish.
doesn't. No. And I mean, I think that if someone just sits there and they're like super confident all the time, right? Or a lot of people put on this like facade that they're just like super confident all the time. But I think everybody has their own insecurities at some point, right? I mean, even still to this day, I mean, I opened up my salon and I built a new clientele where I'm at. I still get times where, if I have a slow day or a slow week, I'm like, I feel like such a loser because I'm not working. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I feel so much better about myself when I'm actually working and I'm making money, right?
Mhm.
So I think I think confidence is not something that is a goal that you get to. It's something that you're constantly working on,
Oh, you said it so well.
for sure. I just
It's like
pulled that
a
right out of I don't,
like girl, that's tweetable. Tweet it, girl. Tweet
right?
it.
Right?
Yeah. You know, that was something like that I struggle with. In fact, even recently, like or not recently, but through COVID, right? My client base changed. Majority of what I was doing before COVID was in-person coaching. I had a few online clients, but it was like it was almost like kind of like a novelty back then. It was like an online client was like, whoa, you are high tech, right? And
Right.
then COVID hit, and I remember freaking out when they started talking about, social distancing, like, oh God, like I'm not going to be able to see my clients. Like, what's going to happen? I'm new at this too. I was relatively new. It was like not even 2 years in. And I was just getting momentum. It was like, holy crap, I can't see people. I'm going to have to go to Zoom. Like, what the hell is this? And it was just one of those things where, talk about totally feeling like no confidence again. Like I was just starting to build up my confidence and all of a sudden it got stripped from me and I'm gonna have to do everything online. And it just felt like, wow, I have to learn this whole thing over again, let alone that I did a different career for almost 20 years. I was constantly feeling like, and it sucked. I was constantly feeling like I was beginning. And that is a hard, I think, humbling place to be is feeling
For
like, wow,
sure.
I left a career that I was like, one of the, the top, not to say top dogs, but you know what I mean? Like, one of the experts on staff, people, a senior staff member, and then having to start again, like beginning. And then COVID hit and it was like, wow, beginning again. I had to learn like the whole digital world and how to do all this stuff and try to
Yeah.
build that up. It was huge ass struggle to confident or to constantly try to build my confidence. It felt like if anything, my confidence was getting like smashed. And I think
Yeah.
that's where, it's hard for, I think, us for sure to share that part because we work so hard on building ourselves up that to even maybe sometimes to acknowledge it, it's like, man, I don't want to step back. But that's the real stuff that, and it really sucked. It sucked, feeling like I was struggling again, like I was in the
Yeah.
beginning again.
Just
Um,
acknowledging the struggle. I mean, entrepreneurship, you think it's all rainbows and butterflies, right? That's why everybody wants to be an entrepreneur now. But I don't
mhm,
think people realize how much of a roller coaster it can be.
mhm,
You can have some really high highs, but you can have
mhm.
some really low lows too. And I think it's just a matter of, like I said, being resilient and being able to, face struggles head on and problem solving, right? Just trying to kind of get through it and
Yeah.
think of, your end goal. And then I think constantly having goals too, to
Mhm.
kind of strive for. I
Yeah.
think is good.
For sure. I think that that was one of the things that, coming from the corporate world, from the engineering world, and then when I, was competing and dealing with, let's say, competition prep, weeks and weeks at a time, having that like rigor in my schedule as far as just consistency over and over. Didn't matter how I felt. I just had to show up, right? So you just keep showing up. And I learned a lot from the power of being consistent. And so I would absolutely agree with you on the goal part, that it is so imperative that if you're struggling right now with, let's say, an existing business, and you feel like, wow, I'm just never going to get this off the ground. I'm not getting the momentum that I want, or you're thinking about starting something new, like, bringing your side hustle into, let's say, full blown, your new business,
Yeah.
would be to establish some clear, measurable, trackable goals for sure. Like, you might be thinking like a big dream goal, but kind of size it down to something that you can actually take stabs at every day. Like, literally, what can you do every day to get you a little bit closer to your goal? Like I tell my clients, what can you do every day? 1 to 2, maybe, or 1 to 3 things that you could do daily that'll get you a little bit closer to your goal, your dream, down the line. Don't get so
Yeah.
caught up in this big thing. Let's just talk about today. What can you do today? And I know for me, that was one of the things that I did when I finally just said, you know what, I'm doing this. I was taking these like baby steps, baby steps. I was
Yeah,
crying along the way too sometimes, but baby steps, right? And then,
for
and then,
sure. For
yeah.
sure. I mean, having those huge goals can be something that's super scary. And if you're an overthinker like me, you start
Yes.
thinking about everything that can go wrong. So,
Mm,
you start thinking like, oh, I'm going to move salons. I'm going to lose my clientele. This is going to fail. I'm going to lose so much money and, blah, blah, blah. You kind of just go down like this rabbit hole, right?
yeah.
So something that I did want to share in this podcast was a tool that people can use. So I was listening to Mel Robbins. She's
Mhm.
one of I think our favorite
We
podcast
love Mel
hosts.
Robbins. We love her.
I absolutely love her. And what I love about her podcast is they're always backed by some kind of research or some kind of study.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
the tool that I wanted to talk about that I think really relates to what we're talking about is like building the confidence and having those huge goals, but then kind of getting past the fear. There's a tool that you can use, and it's a 4-step process. So I wrote it down over here, so I'm going to be
Go
looking
girl.
at it.
Go
But
Clarissa.
it's
Go Clarissa.
it's what it's called a confidence anchor. So it will definitely help you to kind of switch, almost like rewire your brain
Oh,
from like thinking anxiety and fear, and kind of switching it to more of like an exciting emotion in your head. So it's called confidence anchor, and it was a study out of Harvard.
mhm.
And so like I said, it's a 4-step process. So the first step is you just want to think about what it is. So I guess I can just use my experience as like an example. So thinking about starting my own salon. Step
Mhm.
2 is you want to think about something that is a situation that gets you excited about it, right? So obviously when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about all these like negative thoughts of, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose all my clients, but something
Mm.
that gets you excited about it. So for me, opening up my own salon, something that was really exciting about it was that I could create my own environment for my clients. So before I
Mm.
was working in a huge 14 chair salon, I couldn't even really have control over the music, let alone the whole environment of it, right? Like
I
even the lighting.
remember.
Yeah, I mean, the music was
Yeah.
constantly changing. I would go and I would change it to something, and then someone else would go and change it. Or even like the lighting was horrible, but like no matter how many times I mentioned it to the owner, she would never do anything about it. So I
Mhm.
was constantly having to take people outside so they could actually see what their hair looks like. So
Mhm.
it was really, my biggest thing was creating my own vibe for my clients, like
Mm.
what they wanted to experience when they walked into the salon. So that was something that was exciting to me. So I was like,
Yeah.
so, something that you can do is you can close your eyes and you can envision something that is exciting about that goal. So whether it's, walking in and there's like this really bright but soft light that's very comforting and inviting, having some candles lit that, like is very relaxing, having some nice music on. I have a TV in my studio, so having like some cute little like rom-com playing that's like lighthearted, and so you kind of like, you close your eyes and you just envision something that's very exciting about this goal. So that's the step 2. Step 3 is thinking about something. Okay, so that's actually the step 3. So step 1 is you want to think about what it is that your goal is. Step 2 is you want to think about a situation that gets you excited. Step 3 is closing your eyes and envisioning that experience, and you want to be as detailed about it as possible. And then something that's going to really kind of anchor that down, that's why it's called confidence anchor, is you want to, when you're closing your eyes and you're thinking about that experience, is you want to say, I'm excited. And that I'm excited is what actually anchors that down. So that's the 4 steps. And so, like I said, that's basically, I think the research behind it, what she said was, it taps into your body's automatic systems. So your body can't actually determine the difference between anxiety and fear and excitement. So you're kind of just like rewiring your brain to kind of flip that whole situation.
Right.
So that was something that I wish I knew when I was starting. That would definitely get rid of a lot of the sleepless nights that I experienced and a lot of the fear and the anxiety that I experienced. Right. Was just, sometimes it was hard to think past the goal of like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to have my own salon and I can have my own, environment, and I can create my own vibe for my clients. I automatically started thinking about what could go wrong.
Yeah.
So that's something that you can do to really kind of help just flip those emotions.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool tool that Mel Robbins shared. I mean, she just shared it on her podcast. I think it was like in November or something.
Yeah.
So honestly,
I love that. And you know why
it.
that's so amazing is because that tool is universally, you can use it across the board. In fact, that is a lot to do with, let's say, my nutrition clients, right? Is that mindset kind of tweak where a lot of clients that I work with, they've had such a negative interaction with, let's say, previous diets, where they just believe that the only time they can get any kind of results, even if it's just short-lived, is if they're freaking miserable, right? They don't really enjoy what they're eating. They feel like they're constantly hungry. They can't go out with their friends and family. They're like miserable. They just feel like they're missing out on everything. But in their head, that is the only way that they get results. It's the typical, what we call the diet mentality. And, part of the successful, experience, or a successful client when they're trying to get healthier and lose weight, I share there's like 3 things. There's 3 legs, to the stool. It's the nutrition part, of course, what I coach. It's the, of course, you've got to move and exercise. Then mindset. So what you're talking about, right, is rewiring that mindset, associating something that's positive with what maybe is normally kind of triggering what you think is a negative response, like that sweat, the jitters, the heavy breathing and your heart rate, like feeling like it's coming out of your chest and all of that. But then, like you said, rewiring it to feel like, no, I'm excited about this.
Yeah. I feel like you can use that tool for anything, whether it's starting a business, losing weight, right? For your clients, it could be, I have a trip in, September. I'm going to Hawaii. I really want to look good in this bikini. So they could literally just close their eyes. They could feel the sand on their toes, and they could feel the heat from the sun, and they could feel how it could feel being confident walking around in your bikini, right? And then you just say, I'm excited. And then I feel like that will really just, it's backed by research, right? It was a study from Harvard. So clearly this is something that works. So you can use it for so many different, things that either causes you fear or anxiety, or you just, you feel like you're not going to be able to do it or get through it.
Yeah.
You can use it for anything.
Yeah. I love that. And that kind of, for me, then it's like, oh, wow, this brings up something I can share too. Again, it's, they found it in and research. And this actually comes out of the University of Oregon. His name's Dr. Berkman. I think he's in the behavioral sciences group there. And
Mm-hmm.
I love that the way he defined the word goal, because I think a lot of times when we hear the word goals, right? It's just kind of like this random thing. And a lot of times we feel like we just can't stick to a goal for whatever reason, right? Well, he defines goals as it's a desired outcome that wouldn't otherwise, happen without you taking some kind of intervention, some kind of action. And it is how he said, a detour. It's a detour. So you're going away from the path of least resistance. So it's not the easiest route. So the way he defines goals is he specifically says you are going to, it's not if, it's when. You will experience resistance and you will experience friction. So I think I want to share with everyone out there, me included, right? Because this is something I even need to remind myself, is that when you're working on yourself, you're, taking on a challenging goal, you're stepping out and you're doing a side hustle, you're starting a new business, what have you, and you hit the resistance and the friction, it's supposed to be that way because you're growing and you're evolving. It's not that you're not cut out for this. I think that too often we sell ourselves short because we think that, oh, it's hard and everybody else looks like they got it down and it doesn't look like they're struggling. If they're going to be real, right? We always talk about this. When we're
Yeah,
real, when we struggle too.
for sure.
And that's just part of the journey. And so those two things going together, the acceptance of the fact that goals are hard and they're going to, well, I should say goals that are well defined and that are working for you, they're going to be hard at times, right? You're going to hit that resistance, but you can use that awesome tool that you shared also about kind of how to move through that when you hit those moments of like, oh man, this is like nerve wracking. I'm scared. I'm scared to take the next step, or I don't know what's going to happen if I take this next step. But hey,
Yeah,
we can like zen out and then
right.
take that step. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard not to get discouraged whenever you hit that
Mhm.
resistance when you're going for anything, right? Weight loss, like you hit that
Yeah.
plateau and then you get discouraged and you're like, well, maybe I can't lose that extra 5 pounds. So it's hard to you just kind of have to have that courage to just keep going, even though you're hitting a wall.
Mhm.
So
And that's why we said, well, again, right? It was so important for us to start somewhere, creating this community of women that support each other through these things, because that is what helped us too, right?
yeah,
Whether
I
it
mean,
was you
having
and
each
I,
other, yeah,
yeah.
having each other just to, bounce ideas off of, or just
Mhm.
have like, the like-minded people to be around and just supporting each other. I think that's a big deal because I mean, really in reality, that's what me and you do for
Mhm.
people in our own industries, right? Like, yeah, we come from completely different backgrounds. We have
Mhm.
completely different careers. You're a nutritionist and weight loss coach. I'm a hairstylist. What do
Mhm.
we have in common? Well, people come to us with a problem and they leave us feeling more confident in
Mhm.
themselves. So really, I think it's perfect what we're doing is just creating a community of women that they come to us or they come to, whatever we have, whether it's an event or come to our podcast and just listen, hopefully walking away feeling more confident in themselves to go after whatever they want to do, their dreams, right? Because this was a dream of ours, was to start our podcast, and here we
Oh my
are.
God, I'm gonna cry.
Um,
I'm gonna cry.
motivation.
It's like, it's so true. Oh my God, what you said is like spot on. Oh my God, and my lashes are gonna fall out. Just kidding. That is so true. That is 100% spot on why exactly we want to do this. And
For sure.
I couldn't think of anybody more perfect than you to do this
Yay.
with.
It's a
So,
sisterhood. We're sisters. It's a sisterhood. Let's
yes,
so definitely we have an Instagram too. If you guys want to subscribe to our podcast, and we're going to be
yes.
coming out with more podcasts and more tools to kind of help you guys grow your businesses or just start off whatever dreams you guys have. And follow us on Instagram. Here's to Dope Women. And yeah, I just want to start this community and just get it going already, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that there's no time better than right now, right? Like you said earlier, you said it's not about, I think you said it's not like about being perfect or over analyzing. Sometimes we just need to go. And we, Clarissa and I hope you all join us. We are ready to freaking go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Whew!
Well, I just want to
All
thank
right.
you guys so much for listening to our podcast. Here's to Dope Women, and my beautiful co-host, Barbara. We're running out of time. So
Yeah,
we hope to catch you guys on the next one.
absolutely. Until then, bye guys.
Bye.